So this is one that I've wanted to talk about for a while now, and that's Batman on the NES. Let's get into it. Visuals are taken from stills from the movie and are translated fantastically to the 8-bit style. Right from the opening screen, it sets the tone as being dark and stylish, just like the movie. The likenesses of Jack Nicholson, Kim Basinger, and Michael Keaton are spot-on sprite work. The story does a fairly decent job of following the movie, which is rare considering the other movie licensed games at the time. The game is a standard side-scroller, but the graphics really stood out and were a departure from similar games of the time. For comparison, let's take a look at 3 of the other big releases of the late 80s here in the States. Mega Man 2, DuckTales, and Super Mario 3. All 3 of them had backgrounds drawn with black outlines defining the predominant shapes and 2 colors being used for midtones and highlights. However, the backgrounds in Batman are the opposite, where the background is predominantly black and the highlights and midtone colors are used to bring out the shapes out of the shadowy background. It was a great design choice and has that same film noir stylish grit just like the movie. Now let's get into the big thing that everyone always talks about this game, and that is, why is Batman purple? Now Sunsoft has no official explanation or reasoning for this is just my personal opinion. With the shadowy background in mind, let's take a look at the NES color palette. If Batman was in a black outfit like the movie, he'd be too hard to distinguish from the background and would fall flat. The other option would be to make him blue, which would be way too bright and also, I think, draw too much of a comparison to the old Adam West Batman design and also to another well-known Nintendo character. Coloring him in purple sets Batman apart from the background but also keeps him subdued enough so he doesn't look out of place or too cartoonish. Again, this is just my opinion and I can see why Sunsoft went with the purple. Batman's animations are fluid and natural and it feels like he's interacting with the world that's been created for him. His cape opens when falling, and there's a weight to him when he jumps or pushes off a wall. His punches are quick and strong, and I always found it funny that it was called the Batman. Yeah, look at that. Give him the Batman. He throws batarangs and stars with intensity, and the spear gun has a kick to it. Also, he has one of the best death animations by turning into a flaming bat symbol. So awesome. The basic enemies are standard fare for side-scrollers at the time. Most are ridiculous and silly and have very little to do with the movie. Instead of fighting this guy, or this guy, we get guys that blindly charge at you or spiky RC cars that get really excited when they see Batman. But overall, the design of the enemies are great for keeping the game challenging and working within the level design. You have your flamethrower guys blocking platforms, floor traps that can be difficult to see, and slow-moving enemies that make these jumps really difficult. Also, have you ever noticed that the running guys take only 1 hit to take down on 1-1 and then 2 hits on every other level? And then their sprites change from these guys to these guys. Weird. Levels sort of follow the movie, and by follow I mean the Axis Chemical Factory is towards the beginning of the game and the cathedral is at the end. Most of the game is made from Sunsoft taking creative liberties but coming up with some fantastic yet extremely difficult level design. Level 1 opens with an awesome animation of the Batmobile and literally has you falling right into the action. It's your standard fare fight in the streets type level with some relatively tricky jumps and timing towards the end, especially the part where you can wall jump to avoid the baddies. You get this really cool mini-boss too at the end who's waiting for you with a giant katana sword, and is he sleeping? He even takes a nice yawn before slashing you up. The best strategy is to attack him while he's sleeping with your bat fists of fury. I mean, the Batman. For the first boss, we have this dude with a rocket pack that flies in predictable patterns. The fluttering animations give him a sense of speed and being able to hover. Personally, I would have preferred a bunch of mimes armed with machine guns since the battle does take place outside City Hall. Level 2 ramps up the difficulty in the Axis Chemical Factory with trickier jumps over pits of toxic waste. The color choice of bright green works well to convey this as a leaky old factory. Sunsoft's brilliant level design can be seen with levels 2-2 and 2-3 being deeper in the chemical factory, with the former being a power plant, and the latter, I guess, being some kind of garbage disposal. It's really cool that Sunsoft expanded on a location that we were already familiar with from the movie. The boss is really well designed too, as the 3 parts of it are traps from the level, with the grinding gears from 2-3, the toxic waste strips from 2-1, and the electrified pole from 2-2. Levels 3 and 4 are where Sunsoft took creative liberties but still didn't stray too far from believability. 3 starts in a sewer, which is very fitting for the dark tone. The water animations look great as well as the turbines. The ones facing upwards have small lines being drawn into them as if they're draining out the water, which I always thought was a nice touch. In the second part of the level, the water has a greenish tint and the walls look rusted like this is a much older part of Gotham's sewers that have seen better days. And the third part has you climbing through a cave deep under Gotham with some of the toughest enemies yet. The giant tanks are almost impossible to take down without taking at least one hit. The final ascent up the cavern really puts your wall jumping skills to the test with rotating blades and small sections of pipe to rappel off of. But at least the animations of the blades are nice to look at. The boss is some giant mohawk dude that throws waves of energy at you, and I have no idea if he's from the comics or not. He's fairly simple to take down if you can force him to one side of the screen to face away from you. Now level 4 is where Sunsoft really went off the rails and designed their own distinct level. The opening cutscene of the Joker hints that it's going to be at the art museum, but nope. You get some crazy sci-fi laboratory that looks like it's straight out of Contra or Shatterhand. As always, the backgrounds have an amazing amount of detail. To me, the most memorable part of the level were the 3 giant TV screens of the Joker watching and laughing at you, complete with the VHS flicker. The majority of the second part of the level is comprised of tricky wall jumps and a floor of grinding gears, but isn't nearly as difficult as the wall jumping sections in the level before. As for the boss, I don't know where Sunsoft was going with this. I guess it's supposed to be some kind of security system? Either way, it's quite simple once you learn the pattern and stay on top of the platform and just punch away. Finally, level 5, the Cathedral. You land smoothly outside in your Batwing, which is just a little bit different from the movie. But aside from that, it feels very much like the movie, with the design being mostly vertical and its Gothic-styled architecture. The gears fading in and out of shadow look amazing for an 8-bit palette and are my favorite of any in the game. Overall, this level has the most challenging jumps, but at least it's short with only one section before reaching the top. Again, I'd love to have seen either of these guys as the Joker's bodyguard, but this horned barbarian dude that's twice your size is pretty intimidating. His fighting style matches yours and he moves at twice your speed. Even when you get his pattern down, he still can be pretty difficult to beat. Also, I have to comment on how much I love the background here, as it looks like it was taken straight out of the movie, right down to the design of the dual swinging bells. The Joker fight is a pushover compared to his bodyguard, and all you have to do is duck and punch and he'll run right past you. To me, his design looks more like Cesar Romero than Jack Nicholson, but it is nice to see his main weapon is the comically sized revolver. Once you defeat him, you're rewarded with a fantastic cutscene of Batman giving the Joker a bat punch right over the side and him falling to his death. So that's Batman, one of the best but one of the hardest platformers on the NES. The graphics and design are top notch and I couldn't recommend it more. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon and keep it pixelated.